How do I put my rental home that I already put in an LLC into a trust? Thank you. So it is an excellent idea to own investment property such as rental property in either an LLC or a land trust. This will prevent or help prevent any sort of personal liability associated with a dispute or an issue with the property itself. So we typically recommend this to our clients if they are looking to buy investment property. It's a good idea right from the get-go to own it in either an LLC or in a land trust. There's ways that you can set up a land trust that helps keep the ownership confidential. And with an LLC, of course, you have protection by owning it in a business so that you don't become personally liable if there's a dispute associated with the property. Now, you, of course, still want to avoid probate if this property, if you end up owning this property when you pass away. So it's an excellent question to ask, how do I put this property in my trust if it's already owned by my LLC? So the answer is pretty simple. You could do a business assignment to your trust. So similar to doing a personal property assignment to trust, which is pretty common. It's an assignment that an attorney usually drafts that provides all of your personal property, everything that you own that's tangible property, and also real property can be included in this, but it's an assignment of property to your trust. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have to still retitle property, but it at least shows that you're assigning the property to the trust. So in the case of a business, a limited liability company, an LLC in particular, you can do an assignment of the membership interest to trust. So whoever is a member and owns a percentage interest in the LLC can assign their interest to a trust. Once you assign your interest to your trust for estate planning purposes, then your trust actually owns that membership interest instead of you individually. Now, this isn't the only step that needs to be done. You should have an operating agreement that governs your limited liability company. This operating agreement will often contain a schedule of the members. It also typically contains a section on transfers or permitted transfers. So even before you do that assignment I was talking about, you better make sure that the operating agreement permits you to do a transfer to your trust. We always make sure when we draft operating agreements that we include a permitted transfer section that allows someone to have their membership interest owned by a trust that they create for estate planning purposes. So definitely check to make sure you can make this transfer. If you can do the business assignment to your trust. Then once the assignment is done, you most likely will need to update your schedule of members, which is typically an exhibit or an attachment to your operating agreement, which contains the names of the actual members. So of course you're going to be switching it from you as an individual, or if it's a married couple, both of you as individuals, to your trust, or both of your trust if you each have a trust, so that the actual operating agreement is updated to show the trust as the member, or the trusts if you have more than one as the members. If you do keep a ledger that shows when membership units change from one member to another, or when they transfer, you're going to want to make sure that you update this ledger as well. It's also not a bad idea to get some type of resolution in place, which can be done through a unanimous consent. So you can put some resolution in writing stating this membership change, or affirming that this is what's happening. So as you can tell from the various steps that are involved, it is often very wise to get an attorney involved in this process, because you want to make sure that you don't miss anything. Another thing that may need to be done, we do this here in Florida, is typically your LLC is going to list your members or your members and your managers on an organizational document that the Department of Corporations has at Sunbiz here in Florida. So typically your annual report will also need to be updated to reflect this ownership change. depending on how the report was filed. Oftentimes you could stay on as a manager, especially if you're the trustee of the trust, but the member is of course changing. So if you have individual members listed on SunBiz, you're going to need to update that as well to reflect the trust. One thing I want to mention here too about limited liability companies, new law was enacted, the Corporate Transparency Act. So coming up here, if for any LLC that was created before January 1st of 2005, unless you qualify for one of the exemptions, you are going to have to register ownership regarding the LLC, or if you have a corporation, the same. My office just put out a lengthy email on this that I will happily share with anyone if they want this information, but I want to make sure I at least mention the Corporate Transparency Act for anyone who does have investment property in an LLC, because most likely this will apply to you. There are exemptions that are listed, but a lot of business entities like LLCs and corporations are going to be expected to register within the year, and depending on when your company was formed will depend on when you need to register. All right, so I hope this helps. Any more questions about LLCs and trust or the Corporate Transparency Act or anything to do with estate planning in general or elder law, you can contact our office if you're in Florida. It's @CausLaw, and the link is in my bio.